The letter from American Express should have been my first red flag. Congratulations on your platinum card anniversary. It chirped, listing rewards I'd apparently earned on purchases I'd never made. I'd never even applied for an Amex, let alone spent $47,000 at Nordstrom last month. I laughed at first. Identity theft happened to everyone eventually, right? A quick call to the fraud department would sort it out. Except when I called, they had security questions only I should know. Mother's maiden name. My first pet. The street I grew up on. Ma'am, you opened this account 3 years ago, the representative insisted. In person. At our Dallas branch. Dallas, where my mother lived. My hands shook as I pulled my credit report for the first time in years. I've been so careful with money, so proud of my financial discipline working as a GS-12 revenue agent at the Internal Revenue Service. The screen loaded and my careful world imploded. 27 accounts, $500,000 in debt. Credit cards, personal loans, a Mercedes lease, even a timeshare in Cabo. All opened with my social security number, my name, my information, but not by me. The first wave was disbelief. The second was nausea. The third was rage so pure it felt like ice in my veins. I called my mother. "Hi, sweetheart," she answered, bright as summer. "I was just thinking about you. Did you get my text about Thanksgiving?" "Mom," I said, voice steady despite the hurricane in my chest. "I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest." "Of course, baby. What's wrong?" "Did you open credit cards in my name?" Silence. Not the confused silence of innocence, but the calculating silence of someone choosing their lie. "I don't know what you're talking about," she finally said, but her voice had shifted, defensive now. 27 accounts, Mom. $500,000. Oh, those. Like we were discussing borrowed Tupperware. Honey, you weren't using your credit. It was just sitting there, perfect and unused. Mothers deserve nice things too, you know. I've sacrificed so much. I hung up, threw my phone across my apartment, watched it crack against the wall. Then I sat on my kitchen floor and did what I did best. Strategized. Most people don't know this, but IRS agents are trained investigators. We don't just calculate taxes, we unravel financial crimes, trace hidden assets, follow money through labyrinthine schemes. We're forensic accountants with badges, and my mother had just made the fatal error of victimizing one. Monday morning, I walked into my supervisor's office. Patricia Winters had been my mentor for 5 years, a 60-year-old force of nature who'd seen every type of tax fraud imaginable. "I need a week of personal leave," I said, placing my request on her desk. "And I need to know the statute of limitations on identity theft in Texas." She studied my face. "How bad?" 500,000. My mother. Patricia whistled low. "You know what you're doing, Rivera? Once you start this, there's no going back." "She stole my future," I said. "I'm just returning the favor." I spent that week becoming my own case file. Every receipt, every statement, every transaction mapped and categorized. My mother hadn't just stolen my identity, she'd built an entire secret life on it. The Mercedes? Registered to my name at her address. The timeshare? She'd been renting it out for profit, income she'd never reported. The credit cards? A paper trail of luxury goods, cosmetic procedures, and casino charges. But the real goldmine was her tax returns. See, identity thieves usually make one crucial mistake. They forget that stolen money is still income. My mother had been living like she made $200,000 a year on a reported income of $35,000. That's not just identity theft, that's tax evasion. I pulled her returns going back 7 years. Every one was a work of fiction. The unreported rental income alone put her in felony territory. Add in the structuring. She'd been depositing cash in amounts just under $10,000 to avoid reporting requirements, and we were looking at serious federal crimes. "You're sure about this?" my colleague James asked, reviewing my evidence. We weren't supposed to access personal records through IRS systems, but he'd helped me use public records and credit reports to build the same picture. "This is your mom." My mom died the day she decided my future was worth less than her shopping addiction, I said. The next Monday, I filed 2 things. A criminal identity theft report with the Dallas Police Department and a tip with the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. I included everything: transaction records, tax returns, A timeline showing how she'd escalated from 1 card to 27 over 3 years. Then I waited. The call came Thursday. Sophia. My mother's voice was different now, panicked, breathless. There are police here. They're saying something about identity theft. You need to tell them this is a misunderstanding. I can't do that, Mom. What do you mean you can't? I'm your mother. You wouldn't? She paused. Oh my God, you reported me? You stole $500,000 in my name. I was going to pay it back. I just needed time. With what money? The income you didn't report to the IRS? Silence, the kind that comes when someone realizes the scope of their miscalculation. You work for them, she whispered. You know what this means. I know exactly what it means. Criminal prosecution for identity theft, wire fraud, and tax evasion. Asset seizure for the unreported income. Prison time measured in years, not months. Sophia, please. You have two options. I continued, ice cold professional now. Come clean about everything, cooperate fully, and maybe get it down to 18 months. Or fight it and spend the next decade in federal prison. You're really doing this? To your own mother? You did it to yourself the moment you typed my social security number into that first application. She started crying then. Ugly sobs that might have moved me once. I gave you life. I raised you. Doesn't that count for anything? It counted for everything I said. Until you decided my credit score was worth more than my trust. The investigation moved fast after that. Turns out when an IRS agent reports their own mother for tax fraud, people pay attention. The Criminal Investigation Division found even more than I had. Offshore accounts, a pyramid scheme she'd been running, unreported gambling winnings. My identity theft was just the tip of a very dirty iceberg. The best part, she'd used my name for some of the offshore accounts. Trying to hide assets in your identity theft victim's name when that victim works for the IRS? That's a special kind of stupid. Her assets were frozen within 6 weeks. The Mercedes repossessed, the timeshare seized, every luxury item purchased with my stolen identity cataloged and prepared for auction. She'd been living in a house of cards built on my credit, and I'd lit the match. The criminal case was airtight. 27 counts of identity theft, 15 counts of wire fraud, 8 counts of tax evasion, 3 counts of structuring, 1 very pissed-off daughter with a forensic accounting degree and 5 years of IRS investigative experience. She called me one last time before the trial from her lawyer's office. They're offering me a plea deal, she said, voice hollow. 3 years if I plead guilty to everything. Take it. My lawyer says I could fight it. Say you gave me permission, that it was a family arrangement. Try it. I cut her off. I have recordings of you admitting to the theft. Text messages where you brag about your purchases. Evidence of you forging my signature. Fight this, and I'll make sure you get the maximum for every single count. I'm your mother, she said one last time, like it was a magic spell that could undo felonies. No, I corrected. You're a criminal who happened to give birth to me. There's a difference. She took the plea. I sat in the courtroom during sentencing, professional in my Navy suit, watching the woman who'd raised me trade her designer clothes for federal prison khaki. The judge, a stern woman who'd seen too many family betrayals, didn't mince words. Mrs. Rivera, you didn't just steal money. You stole your daughter's trust, her financial future, her peace of mind. You did it systematically, repeatedly, without remorse until you were caught. 3 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years supervised release. Restitution of $500,000 to Ms. Sophia Rivera, plus $1.2 million to the Internal Revenue Service for tax evasion. My mother looked at me then, searching for something, forgiveness, maybe, or regret. She found neither. I'd spent those months building a wall of professionalism between us, brick by brick, audit by audit. I gave her nothing. After the sentencing, I stood on the courthouse steps in the Texas sun. My credit would take years to fully repair. But the fraudulent accounts were being removed. My mother would spend the next 3 years in a federal facility 2 states away, and I'd learned the kind of lesson they don't teach in IRS training. My phone buzzed. Patricia, texting from D.C., heard the verdict. You okay? Getting there, I typed back. For what it's worth, she added, you're the best investigator I've trained, even if this was the hardest case you'll ever work. She was wrong about that last part. The case was easy. The evidence was overwhelming, the crimes clear-cut, The trail obvious to anyone who knew how to look. The hard part was accepting that the person who taught me right from wrong had been wrong all along. But that's the thing about working for the IRS. We don't deal in emotions or excuses or family loyalty. We deal in numbers, in facts, in the immutable truth that everyone, pays what they owe. Even mothers who think they deserve nice things. Especially mothers who steal them in their daughter's name. 6 months later, I got a letter from federal prison. I recognized the handwriting but didn't open it. Instead, I fed it into the same shredder I use for sensitive documents, watching her words turn to confetti. She taught me everything I knew about holding grudges after all. Might as well honor her lessons if nothing else. The only thing I kept was the final restitution check, framed in my office next to my IRS credentials. A reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't emotional. It's mathematical, methodical, and comes with a federal case number. And that mothers who steal from their daughters should really check where their daughters work first.